G'day guys, how are we going? Well, full drive trip preparation in the Vic High Country during the snow season. In this video, I've got a bunch of tips to help you plan out your next full drive snow trip to make it safer and enjoyable. Let's get into the video. Now the first thing you want to probably start looking out for is the weather. Now I start looking out for the weather sort of a couple of days before I'm going to go on any sort of trip, but particularly over winter during the snow season. And if you're going to be camping at high elevation, if they're forecasting in any snow sort of under 1,000 metres, you need to be super prepared for that. Even if you're only going out for a day trip, you need to be really prepared for any snow forecast down under 1,000 metres. Now, I get all of my weather forecasts right throughout the whole year, but I really monitor it is on Weather Zone. It's an app, a free app you can download on your phone. So check that one out, Weather Zone. I found it really accurate, especially when you start to get into a couple of days before you want to go. Check out Weather Zone for all those snow forecasts. So the next one is make sure that you take all your maps with you. Now, these tips that I'm going to give you in this video, they're relevant pretty much all year round, but where this really steps up for the safety aspect is over that winter time, snow time. The safety aspect got to step up tenfold. So make sure you've got all your maps and know exactly where you're going. But the thing is, make sure that you leave your planned route where you're going to go with some people so they know where you're going to go and the expected time on when you're going to come back out. And don't deviate off that plan at all. You've got to stick to that plan 100%, particularly over winter. Because it's that one track you might think, oh, you know, let's just go for a drive down here and just check this one out, where you just might get yourself into trouble and, you know, you might not turn up for a day or two, whatever, and now searchers out there looking for you and they're not going down that one track where you've deviated off because it's not on your planned route that you've left with people. So make sure you stick with your plan 100%, because it's that one track that could get yourself into trouble and could end up turning fatals. You know, with some of these tracks that we drive on the snow-covered areas over winter, when we're driving on them over summer, well, they generally can be quite busy, those tracks, you know, with vehicles passing through on a regular basis. But over winter, when they're covered in snow, it's a totally different ball game. So if you find yourself getting into trouble on one of these tracks, it could be hours or even days, you know, before another vehicle potentially comes along to help you out. Now, when you're talking sub-zero conditions, I tell you what, hours could be the difference between you surviving and not. So make sure you stick to that planned trip that you've given to people, and stick to it 100%. Okay, so the next one now is your snow chains. Now, with your snow chains, it's really important that you let your tyre pressures down before you go and put your snow chains. Now, these are my snow chains here. Now, any other day of the week, you know, I run, you know, 18 psi in the front and 20 psi in the back. But over the snow season, I like to get a bit more psi out of the tyres, so I run 16 psi on my front tyres, 18 psi in the back. You get that bigger footprint, allows you to, you know, to sit up on top of that snow a little bit easier than digging yourself through. I liken it very much to driving on soft sand on the beaches and deserts and that sort of thing. It's very, very similar. So I get a bit more PSI out for those reasons. Now, you know, which end do you put your snow chains on? You put them on the front, you put them on the back. Well, I have driven, you know, with both ends. I've tried out both ends and, you know, pretty successful with either of them, but I tend to favour putting my snow chains on my front tyres. You know, it just gives you that bit more control, particularly with your steering. So the snow chains generally work pretty well on there. So there's a couple of tips there. Put your snow chains on the front and get those tyre pressures down before you put those chains on. And the next one is certainly with trees, you know, trees coming down. Over that winter time, you know, the ground's already soggy, wet, very, very soft. And now the trees, the big tall trees, you know, they've got extra weight added to them now with the snow hanging off the canopy and all the branches. So you've got to be super careful and be conscious of any trees that potentially come down, whether you're driving the tracks or if you're camping out there overnight somewhere. Do have an extra good look around, you know, trees that are around you, particularly if they are loaded up with snow. Because, you know, trees can come down any time of year as well, but even more so over that winter time, purely just because of the extra weight they're now carrying and that ground is super soggy, and that's when big trees can fall over. So be very careful of the trees and have a good look around before you go setting your camp up. Now the next one is respect for the high country during the snow season. Now I can't emphasise that enough. It doesn't matter if you're going up there for a day or going up there to camp up there for a few nights. Treat the winter time when the snow's fallen with the utmost of respect, because, you know, we all like to get out there and drive in it and play in it. It is a great fun. It's great activities, you know, for the family and everyone out there to get out there and enjoy the snow season, because it is ripper fun. But you got to treat it with the utmost respect, because the time when you don't, that cute little white fluffy stuff that falls out of the sky that we love to go and muck around in, fair dinkum, it's got danger written all over it as soon as you drop your guard on it. Righto, so the next one is how to get a fire going during those winter times, and I'm not talking about drums of diesel and drums of petrol, because that's got danger written all over as well. So there's other ways. You know, we all start off with the basics, you know, a bit of newspaper, box of matches, get a fire going any day of the week, except for sometimes over those cooler winter months. You know, newspaper gets wet, well, it's not going to light, and a box of matches, you know, these don't even have to get wet. Sometimes just the cold air, the moist air from when you're out there camping or being out there during the winter time in the snow season can make these not work. So you need something else to go with that to keep in your kit. And this is where a box of fire lighters, you know, I've got a box of these are absolutely fantastic. These will burn for quite some time, you know, in case your wood's a little bit wet. Certainly use your fire lighters, but in the day these don't light by themselves. And then if your matches are wet, well, they're not going to get these things going. So then what are you going to do? That's when you need the next backup. And that's one of these things. Now, a fire lighter, flint there, these are absolutely fantastic. Doesn't matter if these get wet, they'll always strike up a spark, just like so there. And they'll get your fire lighters going down there. So make sure you've got yourself one of these. These are absolutely fantastic. And doesn't matter if they get wet, they'll always drum up a spark. Now I'll do a video a bit later on down the track on using one of these properly, because these are fantastic, and wouldn't have one of these not in my kit over that winter time. So get yourself one of these and she'll spark away and you'll get your fire going, stay tasty warm. Right, so the next one, now this next tip, it ain't rocket science. Now the higher you go up these mountains, the deeper the snow is going to get, particularly if it's bucketing down. If it's bucketing down where you are and you're still heading up these mountains, well, it's only going to get deeper and deeper the higher you go up. So there's no point getting out of your comfort zone here in these sub-zero conditions. Now, if you're not happy, you know, driving around in these conditions where you are right now and it's still bucking down snow and you're a bit concerned about the depth of it, well, fair dinkum, just hang a Yui, go down, drop down a few hundred metres or whatever to get a bit of lower elevation and enjoy yourself, you know, down around there where you're a bit more comfortable and you're going to have a great time and a great experience. Because I can tell you now, there's nothing worse than, you know, trying to do a recovery in sub-zero conditions, because it ain't fun. And doing recovery in sub-zero conditions, well, they can turn very deadly and dangerous very, very quickly. So don't go pushing your boundaries. It's one time a year where you don't want to go doing that. So head down a bit lower and have a good time down there. And the next one is our four drive motors. You know, they do react very differently over those colder months, particularly if you're going to go out there during that snow season. And if you've got a diesel full drive motor like what I've got in my patrol here, you do need to take all the precautions to stop your fuel freezing up and gelling up in the fuel lines. Not so bad if you're just going to go up maybe for a day trip, but even still, I still mix my own fuel. But if you're going to camp overnight, it is really important that you either mix your own fuel, put an additive in your fuel, or get a good dose of alpine fuel from some of the service stations around the high country before you head up into the mountains. Because if you get a problem there, you know, where you wake up the next morning, you've camped out there, you've had a great time in the snow, you go to start your motor up and it doesn't start because your diesel and your fuel lines is all freezed up. And if you get this badly enough, fair dinkum, you're in a world of trouble and you just will not get the thing started. So you really need to be very careful with diesel motors. So go to that extra length, either mix your own fuel, put an additive in it, or get the good dose of the alpine fuel from the service stations before you head up. Now this is really only diesel motors. I don't think I've never heard any issues going on with petrol motors. But if you've got a diesel motor, make sure you do take those precautions. I'll put some other videos. I'll put some videos down in the description panel below with some other links to videos I've done directly on about that. So check those out from there. Now the next tip is don't park your vehicle, particularly if you're going to camp overnight, with that handbrake pulled on, because any moisture that builds up on the cable, you know, when you're driving throughout the day, the water, you know, gets on your cable there. Well, overnight, if it's snowing and really cold, well, that water, the moisture that's on that cable can freeze, and then you go to get up the next morning after having a great night camping out in the snow, go release that handbrake and it won't release. So make sure you park your car in an area where, if you can, where it's pretty flat, where you're not relying on the handbrake. Make sure it's left in gear, that's all fine, but don't leave that handbrake pulled on, because you might not release it the next day. So the next tip is your windscreen wipers up there on your windscreen. Make sure, particularly if you're going to camp overnight, lift those windscreen wipers up, get them off your windscreen, because in the next morning, you know, you've had a great night out there camping, clean all the snow off your windscreen to go and drive away. Go and turn those wipers on, you know, to clear whatever ice and everything's on your windscreen there. And fair chance you'll rip that rubber clean off your windscreen because it'll freeze and stick to your window. So that's the next one. Pull those windscreen wipers off and fair chance you'll keep your windscreen wipers all in one piece. Now this one here now, this one's another really important tip when you're driving out there in snow, and that is make sure you stay on the four drive tracks. You know, you don't want to go coming up to this big grassy or big clearing, you know, you can see there, it's all covered in snow, looks nice and flat, but you just don't know what's under the surface. So at all times, stay on those four drive tracks. You don't want to go driving through some of these big open areas. You just never know what's down there. It could be logs or rocks or big holes. And then you could find yourself in a world of trouble if you go breaking something out in these sub-zero conditions. So that hot tip, stay in those four drive tracks all the time. Well, there you go, guys. I hope those four drive trip preparation tips have helped you out to plan your next snow trip. So get out there, have a great time in the snow because it is a heap of fun, but put safety first. So fair chance I'll see you out in the bush someday.